Like most people in the conservative community, I use that community loosely because it varies a lot. We have different views. I, for one, am not of the establishment wing of that party or community, however you want to call it. I defy convention. I defy establishment because, frankly, it hasn't worked. What we have now is a scandal industry where people profit at the downward slide of this country, whether it's on cable news, Fox News, or the other cable networks and rightist and leftist media, or otherwise. I'm sick and tired of listening to the stuff that comes out, particularly from our own side, the conservative media. And while I appreciate Rush Limbaugh, I think of all the people out there, Rush is the smartest. People listen to what he says in the morning and they try to do it as a copycat, particularly Hannity. Hannity has very few original thoughts. And in fact, he was catapulted into his position by people like Limbaugh, the same for Mark Levin, a few others, is that you have to remember that Rush Limbaugh has spent his entire life in a radio studio. And I'm not denigrating that. Obviously, I love Radio America. I'm in a radio studio right now. But I do other things. And as I say at the outset of my show, Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman, we just don't report the news or comment on the news. We make the news. Now, yesterday, perchance, I happened to catch a portion of what Rush Limbaugh was saying. And I wish Rush very well. I want him to get better. Obviously, he's got terminal cancer, and I hope that he will defeat that because he's very important to the conservative community in the world. But again, remember, he has spent his entire life at a radio studio. So I walk into the room where one of my colleagues is listening to Rush Limbaugh, and I hear him say, with regard to the ongoing scandal involving the unmasking of General Mike Flynn and others in and around Trump, which is a violation of privacy rights, of the Fourth Amendment, a violation of our Constitution, illegal mass surveillance, which I've enjoyed on at least two occasions. That means a court ordered that it stop. But then Rush says, Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch says that we should appoint a special counsel, and he recommends Sidney Powell. Now, Sidney Powell's done a good job with General Flynn. That's fine. But Rush then breaks in and says, I can't really understand why the Attorney General refuses to prosecute Obama and Biden for these crimes. I don't think he's afraid. I just can't figure it out. Well, you know what? I can figure it out, okay? Because this is part of the establishment. They don't go against each other. It's mutual assured destruction in Washington, D.C. They perpetuate their power. They perpetuate their financial well-being, as does Fox News and the other media. And it becomes a scandal industry. And then Rush says, well, I think we should appoint Andrew McCarthy. Well, Andrew McCarthy is with the National Journal. He's establishment, former assistant U.S. attorney. Andrew McCarthy writes some good columns, but he's not going to put up or shut up. We know that. And we know from the past that special counsels will not result in any conviction because they're part of the Bill Barr Justice Department and any other Justice Department. And that's what I take issue with, is that you have people like Fitton out there getting documents. It's good to get documents, but then doing little to nothing with the documents, instead begging the federal government to do the job of we, the people. And that's what we try to do at Freedom Watch. And in fact, Rush Limbaugh was saying the same thing, passing it off to a special counsel. We can no longer pass things off to our corrupt government. We have to do it for ourselves, as our founding fathers did it in 1776. They didn't look to King George III. They first tried to correct the injustice, the tyranny that was being foisted upon us by the British Crown. They had had enough. They said enough is enough and enough is too much, to paraphrase Popeye of my youth in cartoons. But it's not a cartoon anymore. It's the real world. And it's time for the American people to rise up. And that's why, whether it's Freedom Watch's citizens' grand juries, which are quite legal, which seek to hold the guilty accountable, as we did with Robert Mueller last fall when he was indicted. He will be tried and convicted when things lighten up a bit with the coronavirus. Next on the list is Obama. Next on the list are the Clintons. Next on the list are the surveillance czars of Obama, Brennan and Clapper. Next on the list is James Comey. Next on the list is Andrew McCabe, the Lovebirds, Bruce Orr, the whole lot of them. We, the American people, now must peacefully and legally take matters into our own hands, forget about special counsels, forget about another Judicial Watch victory because we've got documents. Okay, take the documents and put them where the sun don't shine because you don't use them otherwise. We will get documents, and we have gotten documents, and we're seeking documents, but we'll use them in citizens' grand juries, and we'll use them in the court cases, the hard-hitting cases we bring against communist China for destroying this country health-wise and financially. We, the American people, do not need to pay for this damage, and the president's been absent in holding the Chinese accountable, whether it's because we're dependent on them for medicines or some other reason where he may have a conflict of interest. He now needs to man up and take on the communist Chinese. They're even squashing liberty in Hong Kong as we speak. They're on the march. They've been quiet for a very long time. They're very smart people. And the Chinese people, I might add, as a whole, are very good people. 30% of the people who have signed up for our class action in Dallas are Chinese Americans and Asian Americans. Hardworking. They don't look for handouts. They don't care about affirmative action. They don't get it anyway. And they excel because they're smart. But the communist Chinese are also smart. And they are about ready, frankly, to take over the world. They even control the port of Haifa in Israel. Netanyahu gave them a lease, if you can believe that. They control the Panama Canal. They bought up utilities around the world. And now they've unleashed a bioweapon on all of us, for which they will be held accountable, including at the Hague International Criminal Court, where we have filed a complaint. So I ask you, forget about the scandal industry. Okay to listen to Rush, but Rush is unfortunately like the rest. Let somebody else do our job. We'll do the job ourselves, and we'll do it because we believe in this country, and we'll bring it back, just like our founding fathers brought the colonies back to liberty and freedom. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Sign up for our class action. See if you qualify. Support what we do with tax-deductible contributions. Join our Justice League. You are the superheroes, not the federal judges, not the corrupt legislature, not the corrupt executive deep state branch. We will prevail, and we will win with the grace of God. Please share this podcast. You can find it at freedomwatchusa.org, on iTunes, on Spotify, on Roku, on Amazon Fire, on Facebook. It goes out by Twitter. Get the word out far and wide. I'm telling the truth. I'm not crowing about my accomplishments. I've barely made a dent in my career. It's time now to do more than a dent, to bring this country back to the vision of our founding fathers. God bless you. God bless your family. Stay safe. God save America. And I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of our special podcast, A Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Thank you for listening to me.